Good morning, good morning, good morning, sun and shine. Welcome to a very spontaneous episode of Super Punk Corporate Meltdown. Now, of course, if you're hearing this on the podcast, I highly recommend you jump onto YouTube because I am going through everything on the screen. For those playing at home, it is Sunday, the 5th of November. It's 18 past 8 in the location in which I am. I've borrowed my girlfriend's cup for today's episode. And what is today's episode about? Right. One, we've had a major resolution in the legal case that James had brought out, had undertaken as a reaction, by the way, to the BBC documentary, but more importantly to the accusations of former workers and the environment that he created. And with that resolution, well, we've got the first thing that the real reason why I wanted to get on here today is because we can look at how one story creates two narratives. And that's super interesting because we've seen that with men this year, like Russell Brand, Dan Wooten. I mean, the only thing that James Watt has in common with those men, well, at least that we can say here, is that there is some form of media cover-up handshakey type thing going on. And you can like literally see it. So that's what I'm going to show you today because it is happening in real time. And I never got the opportunity to do that in real time. And the other reason, actually the most important reason, now that this little case is done, those former workers that he has accused, the people that he has accused who are not former workers but have been accused of this crime, two things. One, show the evidence. Put it out there, James. Put it out there. Do we need to ask you a 16th time to present the evidence because everyone is here waiting to find out what they've done? Present the evidence or apologize for the accusation. Because the whole time you've been like, oh no, I can't say anything because of legal proceedings. Even though literally the only way anyone knows about this is because of you. Legal proceedings. Well, it's over now. So I'm looking forward to receiving that evidence. I will be asking for that evidence. Before we do that, let's get on here and look at the anatomy of a pale, stale male narrative in the Sun. Woo! Alrighty, so let us get into it. I'm going to start by just showing you something really funny. So when you Google this shit, let me just put this big on my screen. Does it change over there? Does that change that? Sorry, I told you this was spontaneous, so... Oh, it does. Okay, we're going to do it like this then. So you go to news, right? This is insane that you can have one story, two narratives. I mean, it's like two girls, one cup, but instead we're all eating shit because of this guy. All right, so you've got the BBC here, and you've got the Scottish Sun. Look, I mean, you can fucking compare. You can compare. I'm not the biggest fan of BBC. I pulled my interview with them for their fucking little podcast documentary or whatever because I got issues with the BBC. What I will say, they're pretty experienced. They have a pretty good legal team who they're not going to publish stuff that's going to put them into that amount of trouble. The Sun just doesn't care. Like, the Sun just doesn't care. They're a different breed. But let's look at this. So you got one story, two headlines. The Sun, let's look at this one first. So you got major update revealed in BrewDog boss James Watt's criminal case against ex who conned him out of 100K. So let's just like skim through this. So we know this author, that's all addressed in the BrewDog Affected Workers Platform report. It's all addressed. We've already done the work. You know where you can find it. All right, let's see. BrewDog boss, blah, blah, halted criminal charges against an ex who conned him out of 100K. Halted criminal charges. Interesting. The civil court, that wasn't really a ruling as far as I remember from the reporting that was in... As far as I remember, I know for a fact, based on the reporting in Good Bear Hunting, what the court communications person said. So it was an automatic decree. It wasn't a judgment. There was no assessment of evidence. etc. God, he's a fucking flaccid penis, isn't he? You want to sue me for defamation on that one, Jimmy? All right. I'm sure they didn't get permission to use that photo. Anyway. All right. That she could told Mr. Watt he could unmask the anonymous troll. That's interesting. Because I wonder if we got to see how this all kicked off. Whether it was James who asked her to do this or whether she actually was the one who said, hey, you know what? I just want to get involved in this giant fucking problem. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that the documentary evidence would say something very clear about that. Anyway, whatever. He's dropped the charges and wants to move on as her guilt already has been proven in Scotland. You got an automatic decree that she is challenging. Okay. Now, this is something super interesting because I didn't know KCs were allowed to comment on stuff because, I've dealt with them and it's a big fucking no-no. But okay. The evidence is and remains compelling, and the prosecution would have been ready for trial in 2024. That's interesting. Miss Ziam has 3 young children, as indeed does Mr. Watt. Mr. Watt has 3 young children, does he? You're going to sue the son for defamation about misreporting the amount of kids you have? Okay. These events, stretching back 3 years, well, that's interesting, have caused considerable distress to Mr. Watt, his family, children, and business. The actions of Miss Ziam play their part, even a central part, in a much wider, malicious campaign to cause Mr. Watt, his family, his business real harm. Okay, give us the evidence. Put it online. How many times do we have to ask you for the evidence? Embarrass us. Bury us. Just destroy all those former workers with all of your evidence. Jimmy, do it. We're waiting. Just do it. Can you see what I mean here about even a fucking KC saying that this is a central part in a much wider malicious campaign? Where's the evidence? Where is the evidence? You fucking psychopaths. Ms. Ziam's personal circumstances, a young family and the possibility of a custodial sentence in the event of conviction, questionable statement, and the toll of these events and proceedings upon Mr. Watt and his family, it has been determined that the public interest no longer requires a criminal prosecution of Miss Ziam in this jurisdiction. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Because all of the public interest in this case has been generated by Mr. Watt putting it into the public narrative. As a member of the public, I'm very interested in Miss Ziam's case. I'm very interested in the defense that her lawyers, and we'll get to this, said that she was going to present in 2024. We're coming back to this because it's very important. Very, 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 very important. Because it's one thing to say that there was compelling evidence of Miss Ziam's guilt, but I don't see any statements about the defense she put forward. And I think that, combined with the fact that James has abused the proceedings multiple times in this particular case, is the real reason why it's not going ahead. James giving a fuck about a young family? What the fuck in hell? Also, proceedings cannot be cancelled for that reason. So the actual reason the KC cancelled it was because it's no longer in the public interest. The rest is just spin. Blah, blah, blah. Miss Ziam and anyone with any interest in these matters should be under no illusion that this amounts to a declaration of innocence. Great. Absolutely. We can agree there. All I give a fuck about, therefore, is seeing evidence of the former workers, Jane Doe, and my guilt. Where is that evidence? Okay. Because anyone reading this should be under no illusion that there was an actual wider conspiracy. What the fuck? This man accusing a bunch of people that have never met, which can be so easily proven, of being involved in this. He's so thick, mate. All right. In September, Ziam was officially sequestered after failing to pay the sum owed to Mr. Watt. Blah, 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 blah. We told how the mum now lives in Norway, vowed to take down Mr. Watt and said, no, that is not true. Okay, interesting. Oh, no wonder he didn't want to go to trial. already having won a landmark case in the highest court in Scotland. Okay, let's check it out. We gotta go to the BrewDog Affected Workers Report. Let's landmark. Oh yeah. Okay. So JW has publicly claimed a criminal conspiracy led by former employees intending to ruin his reputation and damage his company. Landmark case. There's a bit in here. Wait, where is it? Yeah, here it is. According to court representatives, because there was no substantive hearing in the case, there are no publicly available documents relating to the conclusion of the case. Yes, that's right. So this was what was reported in the public eye, and then what we went and did was go, when we published the report, was clarify that. And what the court told us, the fucking court, they stated that the case conclusion was administrative and referred to the decision as a disposal. Now, we know that she's going to be taking that on, so that's interesting. Then a few weeks ago. So this is all very interesting because I actually know how this all came about. So that's interesting. That's interesting that they framed it that way. I hope that anyone who would feel that they've not been represented correctly by the Sun in this, because I don't see a right of reply. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. We pay for your stories and videos. Oh, I just saw that. Okay, that's so interesting. Okay, it's time to move forward, not back. I'm going to focus on those things that are important to me in my life. Okay. And frankly, making incredible video. Okay, there's no right of reply from ZM in here. That's super interesting. It's not right. It's not right and doesn't feel comprehensive. You've only shown one side of the story, one perspective, and you've said things like, well, the evidence was compelling. It's like, doh. Then just do it. When did he ever give a shit about her 3 kids? What, like fucking a custodial sentence was like, that was the bad thing, but like abusing someone for 2 years through litigation isn't? Okay. All right, now let's go back. Because we want to see the BBC reporting, and this is a completely different take. Ex-girlfriend of BrewDog boss James Watt cleared of criminal fraud. Interesting headline, cleared of criminal fraud. Where Emily's Ian was convicted of fraud in a civil case but acquitted of criminal charges. So this is interesting. It's one story, different narratives. BBC, whatever. I can't deny that their reporting is usually, pretty rock solid when it comes to things, especially court stuff. It's very, it would be very strange. And it's even interesting, what's going on in the Sun, because it's very strange for people to misreport on court stuff, because you can look at the evidence, whatever. God, look at this little fucking, look at this. Oh. Anyway, all right. James Watt, who co-founded the Beer Giant, brought a private prosecution against former girlfriend Emily Zium for fraud and malicious communications. Ruling, again, super interesting, the terminology that's being used, because, yeah, like I said, we go in here, this is what the court said. They said, yeah, it was reported differently at the time, but whatever. She's now being cleared of criminal fraud after lawyers for Mr. Watt offered no evidence. So usually the way these private prosecution things work, right? So someone comes in and they go, you did something wrong to me. I mean, I think it exists for real crimes, but I'm pretty sure the only people that can do it is rich cunts. You did this to me, and then the person who is accused, it's determined, if there's going to be a trial or something like that, but generally they're like, okay, well, here's why I did or did not do this to you, as in terms of a case, in terms of a defense or whatever. And then I guess leading up to the trial, it's just a standard discovery process. Then the prosecution responds and says, well, actually the defense you presented is flawed because of XYZ. And then I guess the trial happens. I don't know. I mean, that's vaguely what I believe to be the case. So I guess my understanding of this from a distance is that, yeah, like he accused her of shit. She handed over her evidence, and now the lawyers are like they didn't offer anything. So the Casey's like, okay, well, there's no public interest in this. So they said their case against her was overwhelming, but was being withdrawn due to the earlier fraud finding in the civil case in Scotland, her recent bankruptcy, and personal factors. Well, actually, all that happened over a year ago. So the math ain't mathin' there, Jimbo. In a statement, James Watt said he had already won his case in the highest court in Scotland and no longer felt it was necessary to pursue it in criminal court in England. Interesting. God, that's interesting, because that happened a year ago. And I happen to know the amount of women that you've badgered with litigation threats, Jimmy. Let's talk about that, because if you were telling the truth with that statement, if it really was time to move on, you would have done it a year ago. But instead, you went on to harass many people. And you still haven't presented one shred of evidence that they were actually fucking involved. I think this is over and done with, because you presented a very fucking shoddy case. And again, I just actually want to talk about Michael Roberts, if this prick is in here. Michael. Oh yeah, Michael Roberts. Like, this is who built your case. And as you can all see watching this in the BrewDog Effective Workers Report, I mean, it's not even hard for us. It's not even hard for us to prove this stuff. Okay, moving on. In a statement, Miss Siam said the outcome was just because Mr. Watt's accusations were fictitious. I don't think anyone involved in was surprised by the result. Last year, Mr. Watt, who co-founded Aberdeenshire-based BrewDog, was accused of inappropriate behavior and abuse of power in the workplace against former staff. He denied all of those allegations. He later claimed Ms. Siam had conned him into paying $100K. Well, first of all, he claimed that a former employee had attempted to blackmail him, and as it turns out, he hacked that former employee and set up the scam himself. He accused a former romantic connection who we've referred to in this report of Jane Doe of the exact same thing. Actually, let's just go and check in on that and just see Jane Doe, because I know I got some cute little emails in there. Present day, hand in heart. Let's just see here, guys. So sorry. Oh yeah, this is all the quote. This is all the accusations. Here it is, JD. I have extensive evidence from multiple sources of what you and others have been doing, including multiple screenshots and many messages. I was surprised to see you actually refer to them as troll accounts, by the way. I've taken legal advice on this matter, and it is clearly a criminal matter. Blah, 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 blah. This motherfucker, goes on to offer to pay the legal fees for this person, and it's not the only kind of weird fucking deals that they pull out. How can this person and someone else be guilty of the same crime on the basis that you have overwhelming evidence? The math don't math, Jimbo. So anyway, going back here. Yeah. This accusation, all of the court proceedings, everything came after he tried to accuse many people. And he's just circled back around over the last years, just accusing these people again and again, offering them deals. Okay. And yeah, he said that she was at the center of the scheme herself. That is super, super interesting. Again, I really hope someone does a deep dive on this. Netflix, Story Films TV, Kira and Peter, you up for it, babes? Women in power, let's talk about it. Again, the Netflix thing, we've spoken about it on our Twitter. This is sponty, so this is what I'm like when I don't have a fucking script. Sorry. Ms. Siam denied but failed to respond to a civil court claim in her absence. Yep, I don't know what to communicate about any of that. It is what it is. She was ordered to pay $100K back. Yada, yada, yada. Mr. Watt subsequently pursued a rare private prosecution against Ms. Siam. So what my lawyers told me about this was it was a way for rich men to pressure and blackmail people. Yep, charges. A statement from Miss Siem's lawyers, Bark and Co., said that Miss Siem had denied all the allegations that had been determined to prove her innocence at trial. The firm then added a defense statement setting out the flaws in the case against her, and her response to that case was prepared and served. Following a review of all available material, lawyers on behalf of Mr. Watt offered no evidence, and Miss Siem was acquitted of all allegations. So when you have two narratives like this, it's super interesting because it's like, who do you believe? Who do you believe? And that's why I wish that there was an outlet, a major outlet, willing to actually really do the work. So, my mistake. Everyone's going to make money off other people's trauma, right? All right, so Miss Siem claims that during the process, Mr. Watt's lawyers offered a plea bargain to her in return for dropping the charges. She said, during this whole ordeal, I was continuously offered that if I revealed information on those involved making allegations against him in public to confirm a conspiracy against him, all proceedings against me would be ceased. I refused every time. That's fucking interesting. Why would someone refuse that? My gut feeling is they're innocent and they know that's wrong, and that's tantamount to fucking bribery. Call Alan Layton. He loves to do a little tantamount to very bad behavior type letter. Okay. That's interesting because that, I don't know, that's a bit weird. Like, also, what information does he want from someone who has never met anyone, and the only times they've spoken to anyone, all of which we haven't have documented, Jimmy? It's very clear they didn't know each other before. And it's very clear that everyone just fucking, like, blocked her and cut her out because it was fucking weird and felt weird. Probably because she was working for you. You know what I mean? Anyway, I think it's interesting that someone would refuse that. A, there's probably no information to offer up. B, if I was accused of something the way that this woman's been accused of it, and I had an actual defense, which her lawyers say she had, I would want that shit in court. I would want that shit on record, and I would want my innocence. Blah, blah, blah. Miss Siem said that she's now instructed lawyers to challenge the ruling against her at the Court of Sessions. I don't get why this, whatever, media ruling, automatic decree, whatever. She said, James created an imaginary win narrative and went on to create a false victory lap while I lived abroad. James Watt said in a statement, having won the landmark case, the highest court in Scotland, he had decided not to pursue criminal action against Miss Siem in England. Yeah, so I believe all of this is from a post that he's written. Let's just, I don't want to acknowledge too much of what he said unless it's like got any factual basis. I took this decision for a number of reasons. It's already been before the Scottish courts twice and I won. What? I actually didn't clock this twice. You know, one thing that amazes me about men who lie, right, is the brazen way they just try it on. They're like, nah, you know what? I'm just going to double down. I'm going to triple down. Like, everyone can see it. It's like standing, like, in front of the sky and being like, it's green. It's green. If it's blue, then... If it's blue to you, then clearly you're a hater. Clearly you're involved in a criminal conspiracy to bring me and my business down because the sky is green. And women are hysterical. And we're the hysterical ones. I just want, like, one shred of evidence. Like, I would love, like, a millimeter of fucking evidence. Anyway, the Court of Session in Edinburgh found Miss Siem had committed serious fraud. We've talked about all of that. Then a few weeks ago, blah, 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 blah. Well, I don't know. Did they do that, or did you compel the court in Falkirk to do that, Jimmy? Oh, it would go to charity in full. Interesting. Why didn't you just, like, give that money to charity and, like, not pay someone to record your foreign workers? Anyway. Oh, like, because it wouldn't have anything in it for you. On that basis, I think no longer pursuing a criminal trial is in anyone's interests. It's in mine! It's in mine! I would love to see you prove it! I would love to see you prove it, boy! I'd love to see you prove it! And I think I'd love to see that overwhelming evidence. Just put it online. We've got like a fucking 100-something page report online. You've never asked us to take it down. So if everything you would put online is true, we couldn't ask you to take it down. Do you know what I mean? So just put it online. Again, it's time to move forward, not back, blah, 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 rather than on further costly litigation, which you have basically made someone bankrupt for because you took it on. And you're worried about a young family of three. James, like, just because people haven't been able to speak about this, everyone knows what went down. Okay? Wow. All right, so I've quickly zoomed through all of these articles and whatever, but I just wanted to get on here because I did say, actually, Hand and Heart, Instagram. Oh, it probably won't be up there. Let me see if I can find the story that I put up, because yeah, that's what prompted this whole thing, and that's how I'm gonna wrap it up. Where is it? There it is. Sorry, gang a lang. As I said, impromptu. All right, let's go here. It's funny because I like literally just used AI for this, but I posted this on Friday. I don't know, like I kind of thought it was a good roast, like calling someone an AI generated flaccid penis. It was just so enjoyable for me. I love tagging him in it. It's a true joy, because not because I care about little insults like that, but it's just like, you just think you can wait long enough and bulldoze people. Like, the people that you've accused of wrongdoing, in particular the former workers, they never deserved it, and they deserve a fucking apology. Or they deserve the evidence against them. As simple as that. So for me, love looking at all of this sort of stuff, and I was noticing some interesting things, you know, happening within BrewDog and stuff like that. So I don't know, man. I put this up and I said, putting this here. Now we're ahead of what I believe will be a media onslaught via the Murdoch rags to get ahead of his story. Now, one day ago, 13 hours ago, interesting. That's interesting, isn't it? That his side of the story made it out well before. It's not like there's an overwhelming public interest in this. Do you think, what's her name? Judith from the Financial Times, Josh Glancy from wherever he's from, Stephen Bartlett. Do you think anyone's interested in going back and updating what this man has fucking said to them? No. So this gets put out there. How interesting. Now, I just I'm going to wrap it up because we're going to see what happens. Just want to say that obviously, you know, this is a pay-to-play thing because it's just so predictable at this point. And I think what's embarrassing about it, at least if like I was him, is that it's not extraordinary. Men like Russell Brand and Dan Wooten and all these like disgusting, I guess, like predatory men, like he's just kind of in that group now. And that's going to be it for him forever. Anyway, so I'm going to quickly just show you one thing that I think is like super important. And then I'm going to end on what is most important. What's next for the former workers? So, oh wait, I'm going to go off this for a second. So basically, like, I've had some fun experiences with Jimmy's lawyers, and I've reported those fun experiences, and I will continue. There's more I've got to report. But anyway, I got a reply, and like, I know I can get in trouble for this, but I don't give a fuck at this point. At this point, it's like, can someone just like fucking take action? So let's have a look what she says here. We expect solicitors and those who work in SRA regulated law firms in any capacity to behave in a way that demonstrates integrity and maintains the trust of the public places, blah, 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 blah. They seem to think that, you know, that there is a certain standards when it comes to litigation. I do not consider it gratuitously offensive or unusual for a litigation dispute. So I was complaining that this man was basically like contacting me with lies, with bullshit, yeah? With regard to your concern that Mr. Morrison has made false and malicious claims, solicitors are entitled to take their clients' events as true and to advance their clients' cases on that basis. I just want you to know that the Solicitors Regulation Authority in the UK thinks it is completely fine to take their clients' versions of events and progress their cases. I want this to be clear because I think that there is this perception in the public that no lawyer would just take like some bullshit and make a case out of it for the right amount of money. They will. And this is why I think it's interesting that the own regulation body of these types of lawyers that he uses would say this. They do not have to test the truthfulness of this information. As such, Mr. Morrison is not obliged to verify his client's versions of events and is entitled to put this version of events forward in correspondence. So what they're saying here, what they are saying here is that he can lie. So if you are one of these people that are under the impression that there is no way any of this would have gone forward if it wasn't true, that is not the case. You can literally see it. You can literally see it here. Right. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you this as well because, like, I swear to God, the amount of time, effort, and work it takes to get this sort of like fake fucking information removed is so annoying. But I think it's pretty interesting that they did. Maybe Jimmy had a little life fest. Anyway, let's go back in here. The last thing, this is what I want to end it on. Now all this court case stuff is done and dusted. We're all finally ready. Look at this, March 15, 2022. Emailing with my little BrewDog representatives. Essentially, let's recall what they said here. I noticed, this is going to their PR person, by the way. I literally don't give a fuck. This has been the most extreme case we've seen of a small group of former employees on a mission to cause damage to the brand. There's definitely been a small group of people who have a personal vendetta against James, willing to go to all lengths to take down BrewDog. Now we all know about QuoteGate. You can read about it in the report. But I find it very fucking interesting that we're now at a time when all that evidence can be presented. Jimmy, give us the evidence. There's no more court stuff going on. So why don't you give us the evidence of the criminal conspiracy against you? Otherwise, I'm sad to say, you're going to have to step aside from the claim like you stepped aside from the B Corporation, fucking removing the certification. Anyway, this is a fucking heinous thing to say about people. And I want to remind you that this is just the tip of the iceberg, that there were very specific threats, that it is on record that this man used private investigators to go after these people. And evidently, they didn't find any evidence. No one, except for Emily Zium, has been taken to court or task over this. All of those people have been accused of being involved in this. They've had their lives impacted. Now James wants to move on. Well, I just don't know if that is fair, just, or reasonable. So I guess there's two options that we have here. Present the evidence or apologize. Present the evidence or apologize. Look, I know that there are a lot of people that would say, hey, Kate, let this go. Would love to. Would love to. But if you think I should let it go after what we've just reviewed, I don't know what to tell you. I would love to not have this in my life, but I feel that those who have been accused of being involved in this criminal conspiracy by this man deserve an apology. He doesn't get to move on just because he says he's ready to now. He has to validate what he has said for over 2 years. And there are ways for us to compel that, and I look forward to exploring that further. For now, though, what a treat. What a pleasure. It's been so fun to be here with you today. I don't know what else to say. I don't know if there's going to be more with Super Punk. I don't know anything. I just wanted to have my little morning coffee and capture this in real time. Thank you so much for listening to this spontaneous episode of Super Punk Corporate Meltdown. Been an absolute pleasure to kind of capture this in real time. It's something that I really wanted to do last time, but never really had the energy or capacity for. So super nice to be able to do that now. Catch you later.